You guys know that there's certain things in this class that I absolutely cannot tolerate when it comes to using the camera. One of those is not focusing correctly, having out of focus photos. I'm not talking about your photos being out of focus because your subject was moving too fast and maybe had the wrong shutter speed. That's going to happen. That happens to the best of us from time to time. I'm talking about not even actually focusing on your subject. There is absolutely positively no excuse for that. So let's talk about the 4 things you need to know to make sure your photos are always perfectly in focus. Okay guys, the most important thing you can do to make sure that your photos are always in focus is to make sure, of course, that the autofocus on the camera is turned on. You would be surprised how many times I've had students come back to my room and say, Johnson, my camera's not working, my pictures are all coming out blurry, and all they did was simply not turn on the autofocus. It's the easiest thing to do. You need to literally check this every single time you pick up your camera. I want you to check this. Let me say that again. Every time you put a camera in your hands, check to make sure the autofocus is turned on, because if it's not, you're going to regret it. Okay, so let me show you how to do it. It's really, really simple. Check here, right here on the side of the lens. See how there's this switch right here that says A or M? That stands for autofocus or manual focus. Don't be confused by this one that says on or off. That's for a totally different thing. Don't worry about that for now. A or M. Since most of the time we want autofocus, there are a few assignments that I do in my more advanced classes where they will use manual focus. Most of the time we want autofocus, so let's make sure that this switch right here is always on A. But wait, there's more. There's a whole nother switch that also has to be changed as well. So there's a total of 2 switches that we have to check. The second one is really, really close. Here's the AM on the lens. Look down here, hiding right here. This one is on the camera, and it says AF or M, and that one also needs to be on AF. So this one needs to be on AF. This one needs to be on A. If either one of them is not set to A or AF, your camera won't be autofocusing, and your photos will be coming out of focus. Remember, you should check this every single time you pick up a camera. Make sure your autofocus is turned on, and that will solve 99% of your autofocusing problems. Alright guys, I had to switch to my cell phone to do this next video because it's the only camera I have that can record what I want to record right now. So I want to show you the 2 different ways that you can autofocus. Both of them work just fine. One's a little bit easier than the other, but the other one is easier in certain situations. So you've got to decide what's best for you. Let's take a look at my setup here. You can see I've got my camera here. I've got my little Tasmanian devil dude that I want to focus on. And let's have a look through the camera and see what's going on here. The important thing to remember about the focus is that, see that little black square right in the middle? You can see if I move it, it's the one that's moving around. That's our black square. That's our focus dot. Whatever that black square is on, that's what the camera is going to focus on. So the first way that I want to teach you to autofocus is to just move the black square over what you want to focus on. This works great when you're shooting in a situation like this one, where your camera is on a tripod. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to go ahead and look through the camera. I want to focus on my little Tasmanian devil buddy, but the black dot is not on him. Right now, if I try to autofocus, you can see it's focusing on the wall behind him because that's what the black dot is on. So to move the black dot, I got to make sure my camera is awake, and I do that by tapping the shutter release and letting go. If those numbers are right there, that means my camera is awake. If I don't do anything for about 5 seconds, it's going to go back to sleep. So I tap this, make sure the camera is awake, good to go. While the camera is awake, I look back here. I make sure this switch right here is not on L. If this is on L, then this pad right here is turned off and will not work. So I make sure that is on the white dot. And then with the camera awake, I can move this thing right here. I can tap left and right, up and down, and that is going to move my focus dot. So let's go ahead and look through here again. Make sure my camera is awake by tapping the shutter release. And I'm going to move the focus dot using the D-pad on the back and put it right over the little devil's face. And now I'm just going to lightly press halfway down the shutter button. It's going to focus on him, and as long as that black dot is over his face, he will stay in focus. So I'm going to go ahead and take the picture. And look at that. That's a nice, sharp, beautiful in focus photo. If I move him over here, okay, so I moved him over there. I now have to move my focus dot over there. I got to make sure my camera's awake. Use the little D-pad on the back to move the dot over his face and refocus on him. This is nice because you can really focus on whatever you want. All you have to do is move the black dot to where you want it to focus. Okay, this next method of autofocusing is called focus frame shoot. This is really ideal for when you're not using a tripod, but in order to make life easy here, I'm going to go ahead and do it on a tripod, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. Focus frame shoot, what we do is we more or less keep the black dot right in the middle so that it's always right in the same spot. Let's take a look. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look in here. I'm going to move my focus dot so that it's right in the middle. And now it's always in the same place. I always know right where it is. It won't be that hard to find. And what we do with focus frame shoot is we move the camera, not the black dot. I'm moving the camera, and I'm going to put the focus dot right over his head. And I'm going to come up here with the focus dot right on his head. I'm going to press and hold this button halfway down. I haven't pushed it all the way down. I don't want to actually take the picture yet. I'm just pressing and holding it halfway down. And what that's going to do is it's going to lock the focus in. So now as I keep that button held halfway down, I can move the camera over. I can get him out of the middle. The focus is still locked on him. And now I can go ahead and very gently push the button the rest of the way down. That kept my focus locked right on my little devil buddy. And that's what I wanted, because I don't want him right in the middle, but I don't want to have to always be changing the focus dot around. So this is called focus frame shoot. Let's review it one more time. What we do is we put our focus dot, let's assume, I'm going to refocus, so our little devil's way out of focus. I'm going to put the focus dot right over him. I'm going to push the shutter release button gently halfway down and hold it there. I'm going to move the camera so he's no longer in the middle, still keeping that button held down. And I'm going to go ahead now and gently press the shutter release the rest of the way down. If at any point I let go of the button, I need to start over. So if I got right here and I accidentally let go, I got to move it back to him, press and hold it down, move the camera so that it's not on him, and then shoot it. So that's why it's called focus frame shoot, because we focus, we keep the button held down, we frame by moving the camera, and then we shoot by pushing the button the rest of the way down. Okay guys, last thing we need to talk about here is what it means when your camera will not take a picture. 99% of the time, it's because your camera's not in focus. These cameras are set so that if it's not in focus, if something's not in focus, it won't take the picture. And a lot of times you guys will try to focus on the wrong thing. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's take a look through the camera here. And if I put my focus dot so that it's just right here on the table, you're going to see that the camera cannot focus on it. It's gonna try, it's gonna look, it's trying to focus, but it's not focusing. And that's because the table has no contrast. It has no edges. It's just a pure plain white surface. It's just flat. There's nothing there. But watch what happens if I do this. If I take this focus dot and I put it right on the edge of the table, see how quickly that focused? It focused right away because there was an edge there. There was the transition from white to black. There was something there for it to focus on. Let me give you another example. Okay, so see this white sheet back there that's hanging on the wall? I've got my camera pointed right at it right now, and you can see that when I try to focus, it's not going to focus. It doesn't want to focus on that because there's nothing there. There's no edge. But if I move my camera over, put the focus dot so it's right on the edge of the sheet, look at that. It focused right away. And now I can focus frame shoot. I can keep that button held down. I can move it over and then push the button the rest of the way down, and it will focus on that. All right, so we just talked about 4 things. 1, how to turn your autofocus on, and that you should check that every single time you go to take your photo. 2 was the first way to autofocus, which is where you move the focus dot so that it's over your subject, over what you want to be in focus. 3 was focus frame and shoot, which is where you keep the focus dot in the middle, put it right over your subject, press that shutter release button halfway down, frame your photograph by moving the camera, and then pressing the button the rest of the way down to take the photo. And 4 was that you have to focus on something to give your camera something to focus on. You can't just point it at a white wall or a black wall. It needs some texture, it needs some shape, it needs an edge, it needs some contrast. You gotta have something there, give the camera something to focus on, or it won't take the picture. And last thing I do need to tell you before we wrap this little lecture up on autofocus is that your cameras need about 12 inches from their subject to be able to focus on it. You can't put something this close to the camera and expect it to be able to focus. You want to have it at least a good 12 inches away. Any closer than that and the camera won't be able to focus on it. It's not that you don't have the focus dot on it, it's not that you've done something wrong with the camera, it's just that your subject is too close to the camera. Give it some distance, give it some room to breathe. No more messing up on your autofocus, guys. You now know exactly how to do it the right way.